Park on May 30th, 2019. Everyone go around the room and say their names for the record.
Sarai. Shelley.
Brian.
Nan.
Derek. Sid.
Linda. Pamela.
Paul. Evan.
And myself, Kelly Parks. Rainey was unable to attend tonight, so you all get to listen to the sultry tones of my voice. I will openly admit that I did not get a chance to read the meeting minutes, but I assume most everybody else got a chance to, so if we want to approve the ones that got sent out, we can have that vote.
I didn't, I am in the process, but go ahead if others have.
How many people have had a chance to look at them? Does that have to have a vote?
Not that one.
That has a vote.
We have enough people here for a vote, and there's enough people who have read it who could vote in front of the pass the motion.
And we've been open to people finding small errors after we approve them.
You wanna move to
Yeah, I'm
approve?
going to go through these 522 meeting minutes. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Oh, come on.
Come
Well, just like all in favor.
That way, on the recording that Jen just showed up. All right, so I did, and did. So, how far did we get yesterday?
You mean last
Or-
week?
Seems like just yes.
How far did we get yesterday?
So the draft that I emailed you back has notes starting at 6.03.
I saw the notes.
And then Brady was gonna send you some more notes,
I don't know.
and then we need some language changes in a couple spots.
Are those in the?
I think I crossed through a couple of things that are in blue, down in like section 8.
And the notes that Rainey was going to send you were like notes in her notebook. I think she was trying to put it up with you.
Unfortunately, I think that did not happen. No, I was out of town all weekend, and then when you do that, I was swamped at work all week too. So.
Well, she's out of town this week. So.
Right. So we'll figure it out. So I'm looking at 602, add point to correspond with 904C.
Yep.
That makes sense. I think I can get that done for maybe next week.
Okay.
Cross-reference.
And then so there's,
So you guys added this language?
Yeah.
Okay.
and then I was gonna make you deal with the formatting.
That form, I'm gonna end up reformatting the entire thing. All right. Article 7, I see a question. Oh, we just need to delete Department of Safety because we decided to do away with that.
Yeah,
I was supposed to do that and then get to it. So,
so I have a line through Department of Safety, and then I put
and then
right there.
line that through, strike through, sorry.
Yeah, I got right through there, and then
Article 8.
Article 7.06, Director of Safety, I did a strike through the whole thing.
I see that.
So I think originally there was just a like strike through on like
This is
B,
a word that
and so I
I
did
get
the rest of it.
rough copy for the
Um,
villager, summarize
then,
where we are.
Article 8, I'm seeing
You
is
could look
still,
at that and give me any comments,
so we
Needs some work.
I did a strike through on
things that you'd like to
safety
have in.
commission.
yep,
And then under, I also put a link, I put the link to what the current process is right there on the side.
I wonder what that was. So do we, it's strict, it's come through, do we need to do anything with it?
No, I think we were originally talking about just taking the job description from the Nerd Park Council website and putting it under powers and duties.
Let's, instead of that, we're just getting rid of it.
Instead, we're just getting rid of it.
Got it. What else needs done to Article 8?
I think that was it.
So why don't we see if we can get, if we, with the understanding that we're striking through 804, let's go section by section and see if we can inline Article 8.
Okay.
So 801, creation of general rules. This, we're talking about boards and commissions. Sorry guys, Soraya had to catch me up a little bit.
You guys
So,
need me to make this bigger on the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
get rid of the navigation and that'll help too.
That helps.
Creation of general rules, I think we've gone through this a couple of times already. 801A, following boards and commissions, planning and zoning, board of zoning appeals. We're
Safety
getting
commission
rid
needs
of,
a strike through.
getting rid of safety commission. And such other boards and commissions as may be created by council. Anyone have a problem with 801A? 801B, general rules. Each board or commission shall consist of 5 members, at least 5 members, composed of 1 member of council, village administrator, and 3 members at large. Terms, appointments, and removals shall be determined by council unless otherwise provided in this chart. Each member of a board or commission shall be and shall remain an elector of the village during the term of commission, or during the term of appointment, sorry, unless otherwise provided by council. A vacancy occurring during the term of any member of a board or commission shall be filled for the unexpired term in the same manner as the original appointment. Each vacancy shall be filled within 60 days. Each board and commission shall establish its own rules of order to be approved by council. Members of boards and commissions shall serve without compensation unless otherwise provided by council. And all members of boards and commissions shall be open to the public except as allowed by the laws of the state of Ohio. Anyone have a problem with 801B?
No.
So 802, I see, oh, all right, looking at my parentheses, obviously I need to fix the formatting, but in terms of the actual substantive language, we wanted to have Pam and Eric comment. Did that happen?
I don't think it has.
All right, so we need to get on
I
that.
don't
And
think,
it's giving us when we quickly read through it and can weigh in and we can just move forward based on that.
That's fair. Eric is not a commission member.
So, you had some guidelines of what boards and things looked like previously, so, this seems to be different than that. Could you say boards are 5 members and it's.
Right, so if council should make a new, like, let's say council does create a safety commission.
Yeah.
Then they would use those, they have the option to use those general rules. What this is doing is calling out specifically planning and zoning and saying, we're gonna have an extra member because it's so important, kind of, that kind of thing. This is more or less copy pasted from another charter. Keeping in mind that formatting still.
Okay, so it's 6 members, there's 5 members, and those 5 members are the voting people,
And then,
so
and then
they
you
have
have
an
a council
uneven number.
member, yeah, and then you have a council member who sits the, commission, but doesn't have a vote.
Okay.
Alright, powers and, so you,
In the previous one, it was talking about the administrator was on boards and commissions, I think.
Mhm.
And so on this, you're not indicating that, I think what you need to do is,
Are you suggesting that it
no,
would be?
okay, so, I'm sorry, I said something in this one. You're saying it has 6 members. 5 members are gonna be, as
Voters.
described above.
It
The
would be,
administrator, and now 4 members from the village, and that's 5. 6 is the non-voting.
I actually think the way it's written is unclear.
Right, it is.
So let's open that up to discussion. Planning and zoning commission, how do you want it to be composed.
It would be nice to have, either the administrator or the mayor be on that, commission.
Maybe I can make this a little more simple. Do people think that the Planning and Zoning Commission needs a different, member roster from what is described in the general rules up in 801B?
No,
I think it should match what is in the general rules.
I think.
Because if that's the case, then we can make this real simple.
Yeah.
Does anyone feel differently?
Real simple.
Shall membership, so what I'll do is I'm gonna say membership.
Where was it that we had the three that we said we had to have, which was legal, finance, and engineering? Were those commissions?
Those were departments,
Department.
administrative departments.
That's a
Okay.
different section.
I think it's the wrong word. Change commission to departments. Good thing.
So you guys can't see it, but I have under section 802A, it now just reads membership of the planning commission, planning and zoning commission shall be consistent with the provisions in section 801B.
Okay.
All right, powers and duties. Planning commission shall have the power and duty to hear applications for land use, zoning classifications, or districts, and as merited, to submit written recommendations for legislative action or to render final determinations for administrative action, to initiate, review, and recommend legislation, rules, and regulations on all matters of village planning, land use, and zoning classification, and to exercise such other powers, duties, and functions as provided by council.
Yep.
It sounds okay. I think that,
We ran through all of this a couple of weeks ago. It was, we didn't feel comfortable approving it without letting you get eyeballs on it first.
there are some things that the current ordinance has in there, that actually planning and zoning has never actually done. And it had more, it touches on infrastructure kinds of things, which I don't think is, excluded from this list because land use and that kind of thing would be part of that, so I don't think.
So that would be 802. 803 is the next board or commission, which 803 is the Board of Zoning Appeals. I guess I'm gonna actually ask the same question. Do we feel that the Board of Zoning Appeals needs to have a different consistency than what's outlined in the general rule? Because this is 3 members instead of 5 or 6.
I think
I think this was done intentionally as more, because it's.
It's meant to be more of a tribunal than a handing thing.
you're right, it's not, recommending legislation, I don't think, and that type of
It
thing.
should just be,
So maybe just keep it exactly the way it currently is.
we argued about it a long time, I'd love to just say that.
Powers and duties, Patty, can you read that? Do I have to read it out? Because it'll be the second time that I read it out.
Yeah, so this is the appeal, so right now, council is the, hears appeals. Mostly on that's variances. So what would be an example of this?
So,
Mostly zoning type.
Yeah, say somebody up on Cleveland decided they wanted to take that off the shopping center and build 3 or 4 houses. Maybe.
No, it specifically says duty to hear variances. Right, the last sentence of the,
Oh, yeah, I want to hear variances from zoning, okay.
yeah,
Oh.
that's largely what this commission is.
Oh, and we had
Commission
talked
is doing.
previously about taking it out of the hands of council
Yeah.
and having.
Politicize.
Yes,
that process.
yes.
And then it does throw in the ability for the zoning appeals board to make an advisory recommendation to council, you know, in the event, hey, we've had the exact same zoning variance application 25 times this year, we'd like to recommend to council that they change their zoning rules. And we're eliminating 804.
Yeah.
If no one has any issues, I'd actually kind of like to move that we approve the language in Article 8.
Second. Wait, did you say what I heard? Did you kind of say?
I kind of like. I move that we approve the draft language in Article 8, Evan.
Thank you. So I was still second. I don't want anyone to.
I should be able to vote on both sides, because it's a kind
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Approved.
Should have Bell would bring us something every time.
Should.
And then usually it's me.
So, all right. Article 9.
Because Article 9 was, we had gotten our feedback from Ken Foley.
We did.
We did.
I
And
missed that. What did she say about it?
I believe she said it was beautiful.
I like beautiful.
Yeah, and then, the other thing was, so there's two things. One, sorry.
Hold on. Okay.
The calendar year, so the fiscal year is the calendar year. Yeah, and then
Okay.
council held out a budget, because balanced budget can be confusing in finance terms.
And there was a carry forward from the previous years, which screws up the language.
So just, we're gonna stick with council shall adopt a budget. Okay. I have 901A still in black. Did she have any feedback, or does anyone have any problems?
No.
901A,
No,
No, that's fine.
okay. 603B is your comment over here on the side.
Or, 904C,
You
yeah,
guys figured it out?
they cross-reference to each other.
Okay, so 604, 603B. Okay. I'm looking at 904E. I have yellow highlight by affirmative vote is by those members. Council may waive competitive bidding requirements. 904D.
I think the question just was to us, we were trying to fix up the sequence short.
Yeah, we wanted it to be 5, I thought.
Or D. Oh, so that's like the section right above it.
Yeah, so I don't know why it's highlighted.
I don't remember why it was highlighted.
yeah.
And we didn't, I don't remember us reviewing that last week or discussing it last week. So that must have been something from 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Same thing with F. Do we know why F is highlighted?
Same kind of thing, I think, just to be sure that.
yeah,
I think maybe both of those were things you were going to email Paul about.
I do not have notes about that.
Well,
I think there was some discussion about that 2 weeks ago, but I thought it was resolved
Yeah, but
in more recent council meetings, because I remember, like, charter meetings, commission meetings, because I remember Eric speaking, he told, so there was somebody disagreed with it, and then Eric told a story, a specific story about how it had helped him, like, the freedom as an administrator to choose a particular delivery method.
Yes, yes,
Absent
yes.
council's input, like, the council can still say, you need to do it this way, but if absent that, Eric, you keep the freedom.
I gotta be honest, I don't have a problem with F1.
Nor do I, yeah. Nor whatever is highlighted.
Okay. So, scrolling then. Does anyone have any problems, questions, or concerns about anything in Article 9?
Scroll down to 3 more to see Article 9.
yeah, a little bit.
So with the obvious caveat and understanding that we'll be doing another read through of the entire charter when we finish it up, I move that we approve the current draft language in Article 9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. All about green line. So here's the problem. I had a misunderstanding, I think, from 2 weeks ago. I thought I was gonna be emailing the draft to you guys, and then last week you were gonna take care of copy pasting some language and stuff in the articles, not 10, 11, and 12, and obviously that was not what happened, and that was not the case. So we can go through right now, and we can start copy pasting language in and then arguing it, but short of that, I'm not sure what to do. Because it did not get done.
Randy had said she was gonna type up her notes, but I guess that didn't happen either, so we'd be coming into this sort of fresh again.
I mean, I know you guys debated or not debated, but you went through the memos from Paul, and I have the meeting notes, minute notes from that, but I need to know what to copy paste, what base sections I'm starting with.
Which charter, that's what we like.
Yeah, and I'm pulling from Pickerington for this section and New Albany from this other section and blah, blah, blah.
And I don't have those.
I think we could probably piece them together from the minutes, but at least a general idea, and then when Randy comes back, we can fill in the specifics.
So I'm gonna pull up the memo from Article 10 so that I can.
I have the English law, something that you could follow along.
Yeah, we largely follow New Albany.
That's what it was. So,
Because we have the question of are we following New Albany too much?
Yeah. No.
no, it seems to be well put together.
It's sort of white, the white fence that
We have to get everything out of work now. Isn't that part of it? Like, the buildings have to have to have brick.
I think it's in your zoning.
is that New Albany? I thought that was, Twinsburg?
New Albany,
It was like
New
that.
Albany, like their Kroger and Grand Eagle are both brick faced because they get to be hoity-toity then. So,
It appears to me now in the ordinance under section 901 nominations of New Albany ABC. So I'm just wondering.
all right, so I'm in Article 10.
Do you article is up? Is it stuff that Paul there sends?
Yeah, it's a memo. I've got the memo up.
Do you wanna,
I guess I can.
take over? You take over.
Yeah, I've got my notes on that.
All right, so I'm pulling.
It doesn't, it didn't say anything here. She's, it says she read the currently drafted charter sections, so I assume that it was. She's reading through some of it. But I guess there isn't.
Yeah, no.
I'm positive that we ended up in New Albany. I think.
Like New Albany for all of Article 10?
Everything that I don't see.
But I've got specific changes we made to it.
But if you tell me that I can copy paste New Albany as a whole and then I make changes from there,
Yeah.
is that what I'm understanding?
We don't have anything on the screen yet.
We feel like we talked about this.
I'm sure you have, and that's partly my fault because
No, it's everyone's fault. We dropped the collective ball.
We all just,
Move on to.
Oh, no, let's not move on to 11, let's transition.
I hear you guys are having problems with those.
We're not. It's just every time we come up with a completely different idea of what we want to look like. So I feel like it's starting from scratch.
For me, the problem is that we have benefited from seeing what other people have done with charters, and we haven't seen what other people have done for transitions, as far as I know. And so, that's why I think we're a little bit, because we are creating it, this versus.
All right, so here's what I've done. You guys are gonna have to help me out because I don't have any notes or anything. So I have copied and pasted New Albany's article on elections initiative referendum and recall. So,
Oh, this is where there were numbers and things.
Yep, I got those.
Yeah, I think you're.
The floor and ceiling stuff for votes, yeah. I got those in the minutes. Thank you.
so it looks like they're doing elected officials first.
No primary shall be held for nomination. Village shall be made by petition signed by no less than 25 and no more than 75.
So we decided 15, 7, according to my notes. All right.
Okay, so we've got, I'm not gonna have primaries because we're tiny. We've got, what are the numbers again?
15 is the low,
Not less.
no fewer than 15.
And then what was the high?
So,
Oh, okay. Why do you have a ceiling?
So that people don't.
But who cares? Say someone goes and gets 2,000 signatures, isn't that just all?
I think all 2,000 colors.
We just see the time.
Okay, yeah, it saves money.
Or some Morrissey thing that says, you must verify all, so,
That makes sense. Petitions shall be in the form determined by the election officials of the state of Ohio for the nomination of nonpartisan candidates. Group petitions shall not be permitted. Petitions shall be filed with the election officials of the state of Ohio as provided by the law of the state of Ohio. That seems real straightforward. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Hey, nobody has weird stuff. Okay, elections. Regular municipal elections shall be held on the dates and times fixed by the election laws of the state of Ohio. That's straightforward. Special elections. The council may at any time order a special election by legislation which shall set forth the date and purpose of the election, including but not limited to the referral of pending legislation to the electors for their approval or rejection. Special elections may be held on any date. Again, it seems straightforward. Conduct of elections. All regular and special elections shall be conducted by the election officials of the state of Ohio. Elections shall be held in conformity with the provisions of this charter or as otherwise provided by council. Where not addressed by this charter or by council, provisions of the election laws of the state of Ohio shall be followed.
You want to say Franklin County instead of Ohio? Did we change that?
I don't know if we changed it.
I don't think it would make sense to do that because that stuff's all set by,
by the state.
it's set at the state level, not the county.
There was something we changed.
I think we did change it in the actual very first one. It said election officials of the state of Ohio, but it's Franklin County Board of Elections. I think we changed that one before, but I don't think that's a hill that I.
And probably the state has said that it's the counties that have our boards of elections.
All right, D. Council shall have the power to appropriate and expend public funds to pay the cost of providing information to the public in connection with tax, bond, and other nonpartisan public issues, but not in connection with the election of any candidate for public office. Seems straightforward. Recall. Power to recall. Electors shall have the power to remove from office by a recall election any elected official of the village in the manner provided in this section. As to any elected official who has served at least
6 months.
Oh, passes.
at least 6 months of a term of office, an elector or electors of the village may serve written notice upon the clerk of council of their intent to circulate petitions for the recall of the elected official. Petitions for the recall of the elected official may not be circulated until the written notice of intent is served upon the clerk of council.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Currently, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Is that
my understanding
accurate?
is that that's
Currently,
not
we can just go to the Board of Elections, we can get a recall petition, and we can start getting signatures.
yeah.
That's true, isn't it?
I don't know, I do believe that is required. I go to ORC and.
If you could look into that while we.
Because if it's not required, why
Yeah, no, I hear you, I
I mean,
think it
that's-
is, but I'll look up. Go ahead.
Why not do it?
do you know the answer?
I don't precisely know the answer, I would just point out that the generation of a petition by the Franklin County Board of Elections is a public generation of a public record. So you are, technically speaking, creating a public record either way, whether you're going to the Franklin County Board of Elections or to the clerk of council.
Isn't it in the interest of transparency? We keep talking about transparency on part of council and the mayor, et cetera. But it seems that if you were gonna have try to recall somebody, you'd be pretty transparent about that.
But I don't know, why should we have to take 2 steps to do that? Why should a citizen, I feel like, first of all, I don't think it's that easy to recall a politician. It requires a lot of pavement pounding, a lot of knocking on doors, a lot of talking about why. This is not a petition that most people are just gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll sign this. So why would you force someone to make a written, why the 2 steps?
I think if it's almost the other side of a coin, we're trying to be very open. And by forcing the information to the clerk of council, that means it becomes public. Otherwise, the petition is circulated in secret or whatever you want to say. I think anything that gives more information and makes it more readily apparent is fine.
So here's my question. So I get that. I'm all for transparency. But then is this written in specifically to start public bickering over the matter during council meetings?
Oh, I don't think it does, it's in the going before a council.
No, it doesn't, but once you make it public record, then my whole point here is, why do they need to know? Because in Minerva Park, there are so many people who regularly check the Board of Elections to see what people in the village are doing, that I think it would be virtually impossible for somebody to do this secretly.
That. How many people in this room check the Board of Elections? Okay,
What are you checking?
well, no,
What are
like,
you looking for?
like every
What are you
day.
looking for?
Not every day, but when the season arrives,
At least-
look at the seasons.
At least every
Who's
2
filed
weeks.
petitions or pulled petitions for mayor, who's pulled
Oh, yeah,
petitions for.
But this is a recall, it's not even in line with all the other things.
Somebody doesn't go by that, and check out the Board of Elections.
That's interesting.
Yes, and Brian and I are not the only 2 people I know who do this regularly.
So here's the thing. I have 2 thoughts. One is that it does appear to be an opportunity to allow the target of a recall election to begin,
A counter campaign.
a counter
The
campaign.
counter campaign.
Is that fair? I think it is.
Yeah.
Second, I think that we have enough information ahead of us, we should decide, we should just call it a vote now, leave it or go, and move on, because we can argue about this all night.
The question is it hurt anything?
What was the thing that
I
really
wonder,
did
I will admit, I do kind of wonder if requiring requiring you to walk the community building and notify the clerk that you're doing it. I do wonder if that would have a potential chilling effect on
It would, that's the whole point of it.
people wanting to engage in that action.
That's the
I don't know.
whole point of it. I believe firmly that whoever wrote this, that's the point.
It's in all
Go ahead, Matt.
I have an entirely
It's a reasonable-
practical question. There is no obligation created by this, so far as I can tell, for the clerk of council to publish that someone is filing a recall. Therefore, someone providing notice to the clerk of council is as likely as not to be missed by everyone as someone filing it with the Franklin County Board of Elections. Unless somebody takes the step, which we know that some people do, there's not any additional postage requirements when it goes to the clerk of council. It doesn't necessarily go anywhere, is my point.
So I think that someone could say that if for instance, I give notice to the clerk of council that I'm getting recall petitions together, and the clerk of council doesn't tell anyone on council, and then later, council finds out that the clerk of council knew this and didn't say a word, I can imagine that the council could say, you were in violation of your job duties. Why didn't you do this? This was such an obvious thing that you should have told us you're fired.
I mean, okay, we're getting a little, I think we're getting a little in the weeds here. What, does anyone else who hasn't already spoken have any commentary on this section, these prerequisites?
Brian, you were gonna look and see if there was
It
anything.
is not, as far as the.
So-
I think his point was taken, if it stops with the clerk of council, why have it? What's it gonna do beyond that?
Okay, yes.
I just have one note that we changed the petition may be amended within 10 days after the date of delivery. Evidently, somebody said 22 days.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten that part of this.
Yeah, we're not, we're not there, so I'm still in B, so we had some discussion about this. I want to just a quick raise of hands. Who is okay with this requirement being in as it's on the screen right now? We have a majority of people,
But that's not, so.
right? So
Well, that would be, hashed out.
I was gonna say, so that'll be, I think for right now, we're gonna keep that in the language and we're gonna move on. And then when we go to actually vote on the article, we can just deal with it, you know? All right. Recall petition form. The petition shall contain a verified statement of not more than 100 words setting forth specific grounds upon which the removal of the elected official is sought. The petition may be circulated in separate parts, but the separate parts shall be bound together and filed as one instrument. Each part shall contain the name of the elected official whose removal is sought. Separate petitions are necessary for each elected official whose removal is sought. The petition shall be signed by at least that number of electors equal to 25% of the electors voting at the last preceding regular municipal election. That seems complicated.
This is in addition to what we do with the Franklin County?
No, so this is just the form of the petition. So we had changed 100 words to 200 words. And I don't remember what we did with the number of electors. I feel like it came down to 15.
Yeah, we raised to 200 limits, we raised it to 7 days. Then we,
Where's the
To the board of
Or the 20 days is the next part.
Yeah.
Keep doing this.
It's just written.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that.
Here's-
Okay, so 25%, is that something that got
I
discussed?
believe that went to 15.
Yes, and that was something that the group discussed and approved?
Yes. So, yeah, because the ORC required 10% and previously now it's 15%. Then Dublin Grove both required 15%, so we thought 15% seemed reasonable.
And that information is gonna be available presumably at the Franklin County Board of Elections. You're gonna walk up to them and say, what are the numbers of how many people voted in the last preceding regular
Yeah.
election, and then you can do that math.
That is available online.
So, okay. Anyone have any commentary or problems with section C here? Finally, examination and amendment petition. No later than 30 days, and I'm being told that that was changed to 20. I'll do it now before I'm reminded again.
It's 20 days.
You are a king elevator.
Okay.
After service of the notice of intent on the clerk of council, the petition demanding the removal of an elected official shall be filed with the clerk of council. So basically, you say, I'm gonna do this, and then you've got 20 days to get your signatures. Within 20 days, after the day on which the petition is filed, the clerk shall determine, subject to verification from the Board of Elections, whether or not it meets the requirements of this section, it being the petition. If the clerk finds the petition insufficient, the clerk shall promptly certify the particulars in which the petition is insufficient, deliver a copy of the certificate to the person who filed the petition, and make a record of delivery. The petition may be amended within 10 days after the date of delivery. The clerk shall, within 5 days after such an amendment has been filed, re-examine the petition, and if it is still insufficient, the petition shall be rejected and no further action taken thereon.
So the 20 days that was to be 20 days, was that 10 days? So that first no later than
Yeah.
30 days
Right.
should
Yeah.
remain 30. But then that last 10 days further down, that's what we have made 20.
Okay, so this is 30.
Yes,
What
that's
is
30.
this one?
That one's 20.
And it's the next one, that should be
That
20
10
days.
should become 20.
Is this 5 staying the same?
Yes.
Okay, anybody have any further commentary on section D?
That's-
Recall,
I had one quick commentary on C, just to give everybody
Yes.
a real number. That 15% right now will be 132 signatures. As long as we all know that that's the number today, I mean, that number is kind of high in my opinion. So I'm just throwing it out there one more time.
well, it's only gonna go up. That's only gonna finish up the MLA.
10% means 88.
Because you're right, it's only gonna go up.
You know,
The exercise.
well,
I don't have a problem with it at 15.
I don't have
It should be easy to formalize.
Yeah. I kind of like, I'm not saying you should have to have 100%, but I like the idea of meeting a good number of signatures.
It creates an outlet through, you have to get some people involved. Let's share your thought.
Because the person was elected by more
Not
usually,
necessarily.
but,
If they were appointed, they were elected by 6.
yeah,
but I'm thinking about the instance.
Plus it's
Somebody
132 plus,
Good signatures plus your
also
own.
about 50 more.
Yeah.
To cover yourself.
Could put in 10% for appointed officials.
because,
Go there.
I mean,
So,
Sorry.
I wanted.
does this deal with
I mean,
appointed,
it's
like, honest question here, does this deal with appointed officials further down?
No.
No.
But we have appointed days on council members.
Right, so do you just not have the ability to get rid of an appointed council
No,
member?
no, no, no.
It's gonna be elected officials.
Yeah, we,
Okay.
in our general language, we say, anybody in the seat, in the position of elected official.
Got it.
it.
Alright,
All right, then 15% it is, I just wanted to take one more stab at it.
Don't want to make your true planning any easier.
Was this the section that we were talking about, if it's the clerk of courts that, clerk of council, that, should have to verify all the signatures? And that not having that person put in the position, or was it in a different section?
That was in this.
Because, putting that person in the position of having to say aye or nay and, but maybe that was
I don't remember
The other
exactly how
ones.
you said it, can you scroll down to just D?
He verifies it through the state.
Yeah, it was, within 20 days after the day on which the petition is filed, the clerk of court shall, with the clerk of council shall, with the something or other.
Subject to verification from the board of elections.
There you go.
Thank you.
Subject to verification by the board of elections, determine, oh, it's already in there, sorry, never mind. It's there, we're good.
Good?
We're good, sorry.
Cool. Let's scroll down again. I'm moving on to E.
Yep.
Recall election. Unless the elected official whose removal is sought. Yeah, let's try that again. Unless the elected official whose removal is sought resigns within 5 days after delivery of the clerk's certificate, council shall fix a day holding a recall election to be placed on the ballot at the succeeding general or primary election occurring not less than 90 days after the date of the clerk's certification of sufficiency to council, and shall cause notice of the recall election to be published on the same day of each week for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation in the village. At the recall election, this question shall be placed upon ballot. Quote, shall, name of elected official whose removal is sought, be allowed to continue as elected official's position, with the provision on the ballot for voting affirmatively or negatively. If a majority of the votes is negative, the elected official shall be removed, the office shall be vacant, and the vacancy shall be filled as provided in section 504. We need to update that.
Yeah.
If the elected official is not removed at such recall election, no further recall petitions shall be filed against the elected official for a period of 1 year following the recall election. Interesting.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So my recollection of this discussion was that where it says newspaper general circulation, we swapped that out for all the same posting requirements we had for
Yeah, for everything else, internet.
for legislation or council meetings. So
Can you scroll up and try to find that? Tell me where.
it was like the 3 public faces in the website
Right.
and all. Oh, no, did we actually say that they had a mail out?
Well, that was, that we were talking about postcard.
What am I looking for again?
So my recollection is we had said that it was, we would.
Is this in legislative procedure?
Yeah, in legislative
That
procedure,
should be article.
all the places we said that legislation had to be posted for readings.
But I think we said,
We had talked about, but I don't remember if we had ever landed on.
So I'm just gonna say I'm actually okay with doing that because I can tell you that a newspaper of general circulation in the village is a really low standard.
Yes.
How many people here have heard of a newspaper called the Daily Reporter?
I have.
Yeah, I have.
Right, so no one, most of the time, has ever heard of it, and it's where all the court notices go.
Right.
The records.
Yeah.
but the Daily Reporter is.
It's considered to be a general circulation because that's how I do service by publication.
So you subscribe to it then?
Yes.
I don't have to subscribe to it.
But that's how the Daily Reporter is how the village currently satisfies its publication requirements.
For
No.
There is one that's
I just don't remember where it is.
But he said he doesn't.
Is it in? It's in, it's gonna be further up, it's in,
That's also.
it's in the stuff where we're talking about proposing legislation.
So we can change it.
So,
Introduction
where we,
reading, that's interesting.
we decided one way or another was postcards.
We did.
And with you suggesting that allowing a language for them to be hand delivered rather than mail posted.
Is it this council,
That's
such other, okay,
it.
is it
We actually.
file a reasonable number of copies in the office of the clerk of council and such other public places as council may designate, publish the title of the legislation together with a notice setting forth of the time and place of the public hearing, and the full text of the proposed legislation shall be made available on the internet. Is it that?
I believe
Yeah,
that's,
section 409A.
403A.
I believe that's, so what we were saying, what the intention there was to get public notices out among the, out in the village, have copies of the ballot measure here available for people to pick up, and I think we wanted to have it on the website. 'Cause I thought-
I don't know if we do it now, but we used to, in Villager, before election day, actually post what the ballot looked like.
Basically, the most recent one was on there.
Yeah, so that would be, that it isn't, you know, the number of weeks, et cetera, but that is kind of the newspaper.
No.
Not really.
It never, there was a
It's
new
not official.
definition for newspaper general circulation.
No, I'm not wanting to keep the language.
She's saying that that's mailed to everybody and the ballot is.
So there is a way for people to find out.
Yes, that's the concern, not the legality.
I feel like maybe a postcard. I think a recall election is a big enough deal to put a postcard in every mailbox.
You know, I think everything that goes on the ballot is a big deal. Just say so.
It is, no, you're right, I mean, of course it is, but
You're saying something out of the ordinary.
I consider it
Tax
that.
hike or.
You know, it was shocking to me as I was perusing the Board of Elections website this week and going through
oh yeah.
going through all of our registered voters. And, you know, you realize that we have 1,200 registered voters. I started scrolling through the names. I was like, you know, I thought I was a guy who knew people in this village. I don't know any of those people. Like, the percentage of people like, oh, yeah, that guy. No, that's a really small percentage. So,
All right, take a look at this.
let's see.
It's the part that's in green, obviously.
Yes, I like that.
Yes.
Then do we want to add to that either the mailing of a postcard or, you know, distribution to each residence something? That's the last question here.
I don't, but I'm going back to like the issue on, you know, the Dublin Grandeur place that, you know, none of those had that type of thing.
Because it wasn't required.
Right, but I think it generated quite a bit of discussion anyway without a vote.
Sure.
If there was a recall on this village coming up, people would know.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered our bases here. I don't want to do anything individual.
I'm not opposed to the idea, just saying.
1,200 registered voters, and even in the meeting with the pitchforks and the torches, there weren't 1,200 people here. There weren't 300 people. There weren't 200 people.
How many people voted?
There were, we can look that up.
Yeah, there were more like 60 people
There
here.
were,
I mean,
it was
this,
about 100.
yeah, no, you're right, because we had to rotate people in and out of this room.
All right, I'm gonna keep us focused.
Come on.
Are we good
We're good.
with this section? I've highlighted 504 because I gotta make that be the correct number.
I guess when I put that recall petition up, all mail everybody.
All right, initiative
I'll help
and
you.
referendum. Legislation, issues, and other measures may be proposed by initiative petition and adopted by election as provided by the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio. Legislation adopted by council shall be subject to referendum as provided by the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio, except that legislation calling for elections under this charter shall not be subject to referendum and as otherwise provided in section highlights.
So the only note I have on that is that we decided that twice, we decided that council rules should not be subject to referendum. On two separate, on the 9th and then on the 6th, we came to the same agreement, came to the same agreement. So I feel like we agree on it twice.
We should vote on it just to make sure.
There, comma, and the rules of council shall not be subject to referendum. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. All right. Well, looks to me like we've got an Article 10.
Oh my gosh.
But for formatting, which I can easily fix that.
I do have one question.
Do we
Do we
I mean,
already have the
Is there any reason that we would need to go through this and make sure we didn't forget anything? Or you guys got notes, we're good to go?
At the start of the article, there's a 505, is that just gonna?
That'll be a formatting that I get rid of.
I thought there was,
But that might be something that.
what did you guys have?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
There has been a, go ahead. Oh, there had been a question of, and I think it's in the council or somewhere, but a statement about ethics being something that could get you, ethical violations could be something that would get you removed from office. And I think we put it up in each of the.
That should be in council and mayor.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah, we put that same paragraph in each of those sections, I
I'm pretty sure. We can-
Okay, because there was a separate paragraph in one of these all attached to Article 10's memo. And I swear it has.
I'm hesitant to actually use the word ethics. I would rather use something like dereliction of duty or whatever the language. The language we use corresponds to the language used in Ohio law, but I don't know that there's an Ohio Board of Ethics for village council people. So when you start saying ethics violation, ethics means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So
No,
I'm comfortable with keeping the language the way it is.
I agree.
I move that we approve the draft language in Article 10 with the caveat of formatting will get fixed.
Sorry. I was waiting for you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes. We have another article.
Yeah.
All right, can we do the same thing for Article 11? Like, do we know what we're pulling from? Is it just Albany again? Albany, right?
No, so general provisions was more broad cloth, I thought.
Yeah, we were all nice.
What we were only talking about so far for general provisions was, for laying out the definitions, right? So we,
Do we have anything for me to work with?
no. We had,
Various sections dropped from various other charters. This is more
Yeah.
piecemeal.
Cool.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna need help with that at some point, and if we leave that for next week, fine, someone's gotta email me something to tell me what
There's
to.
pretty extensive notes on it that.
Okay, so maybe
I
I
don't know
can,
if they're gonna refer you to any specific section of the charter, because there's a lot of improvements.
okay,
I know Rainey has in her little binder,
okay,
written in longhand, whatever, or shorthand, whatever she uses,
all right.
the sections we're using.
She wanted to meet with me last week, and it just wasn't gonna happen because I was getting ready to go on
Hey,
vacation.
we're all volunteers here, right?
So,
The
maybe we'll try again next week.
other thing that Randy was gonna check was, and I can ask, Diane, because she was asked about how the charter can address the position of the years for the mayor, the first, when it goes into effect or.
That's a transitional provision,
Well, but
yeah, we were in a transitional provision, because.
which is where we are because I can't do anything with 11, so let's talk about transitional.
And council is also, it was something that Diane wanted, because of some decisions you were making.
I haven't received anything,
Okay.
but I guess she's not, sounds like she's on vacation.
Yeah, so the question that we wanted, I don't know if she got it sent off the call or not, was, for transitional, sorry, my brain just cramped up on me there. The question we had her ask Paul was.
I have it, she copied me.
Oh, yes, okay.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, good.
He did it.
Perfect.
Woo! Okay, so I'm gonna read you guys her question.
Cool.
Hello, Paul. As we are reviewing our transition article and working through some of the questions arising, we are hoping you can provide some guidance regarding the transition from a mayor-council form of government to a mayor-council administrator form, particularly in respect to the mayoral position, which is up for election in the same election during which the charter is being considered. Is there a way the charter transition plan can alter the salary of the newly elected mayor? This is up for review currently, and council is seeking clarification on this. Is there a way to cut short the term of the sitting mayor and cause a new election in order to immediately implement a new role and compensation plan? Another way of phrasing it, is it within the power of our charter to set an end date for the Minerva Park mayor elected in November of 2019 as 12/31/2020, and direct there to be an election for a new mayor in November of 2020 for a 4-year term to begin January 1, 2021? Also, is there any stated law regarding mayoral elections to be held on odd numbered years? Paul's response. Ohio municipal elections are typically on odd years, even in charter cities, and so I recommend staying on an odd year election cycle. I think you were adding a new council member, if I remember correctly, and so you need to make provisions for that as well. The charter would control over statutory election procedures, and so you have the freedom to tailor that how you want. However, from what I have observed in transition provisions, those generally seek to accommodate the terms of officials already elected to positions that are carried over into the charter form of government. So the answer to your November 2020 question is ultimately yes, but you could also provide for a shorter initial term to get back to an odd year cycle. As to salary of officials, I've always seen that deferred to council. I don't think I've seen a mayoral salary set by a charter yet, although there may be one out there. I believe the general consensus is that authority is best reserved to council so that they can adapt to changing circumstances and responsibilities. Setting a salary in a charter would present some significant challenges, at least down the road.
And I don't think that was our intent to set.
No, it was
the rest of it.
Yeah, so I think it says there that we can set as our provisional language that the mayor elected in November 2019, should the charter pass, the mayor elected elected 2019 will have their term expire December 31st, 2020, and there will be a new election in 2020 for a term starting Jan 1, 2021 for a 3-year term, with a 4-year term going forward. You look confused.
No, I don't look confused, I look distasteful, because I don't know why you would do that.
So the reason why is that council is currently,
We spent 3 hours explaining the
so council is currently reviewing the idea of changing the salary of our mayor, right? So if council were to substantively, or even if they don't change it, right? The mayor position that we've written is probably, I don't think anybody in this room thinks that the mayor position as we've written is a $30,000 a year job, right?
Right.
Or any number not higher than that, right? That's not, I don't believe how we have at this table written that goal. So even if we elect a $30,000 a year mayor, right, it'll take 4 years to adjust that salary to one more appropriate to the duties as we have described.
Because there's also a provision in Ohio law that you cannot change the salary of an elected official during the time that they are in office.
Mhm.
So if we set the time,
Right.
so we're all right.
This allows a 1-year reset. So whoever is elected will be elected at the rate and salary that is afforded by our council's legislation, right? And then they can be re-reviewed to make that fit appropriately to the duties and responsibilities set forth by the charter.
Does anyone else see a perception issue with that?
I
I'm in the broad.
For the next meeting. What election date will we
So are
I
you?
just, as a citizen, I would read that and go, so you're telling me we're gonna elect a mayor right now, but then that person is only gonna serve for a year and then we're gonna elect another mayor?
Or the same person.
That seems wasteful.
Well, here's the thing, what's more wasteful, electing a mayor you're paying for a full-time job that only requires a part-time job? So what's gonna look worse if we're paying a mayor $30,000 a year plus benefits, or whatever the council raises it to, for 4 years.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm telling you that I don't think that that is going to come across. I think that
Well,
people are going to read that and go, this seems weird, I don't like it.
Don't just use those my mind, what's a better idea? Think about it, like, we thought about this for, I wanna say 5 hours, and that's the best idea we could come up with. So if you got a better one, let me know.
It's not specifically designed to minimize financial impact.
I'm gonna run for mayor, you're gonna keep it at $60,000 for 4 years.
Oh, no, we don't know what it's gonna
Not running the show.
It's not 60,000 now, so it would be something like that.
The question I have too is, would somebody want to run for mayor in that amount of time?
They might.
And gamble like.
The thing is, they'll know what's gonna happen.
No.
But I mean, it's still one of the issues.
Yeah, I'm trying not to just.
Yeah.
So, 2 things. Number 1, the biggest pro we have here is that it mitigates financial loss by limiting the time in which the mayor says, they can be mayor for $60,000 a year for a year, and then we have another election, whatever. It saves us money ultimately. And the second thing is that this particular issue of why are we having a charter made during an election year? This, I fully believe is just hogwash. We can limit wasting money by limiting the amount of time. It's a good strategy, and the people who don't like this or think that this is a reason not to vote for it, to be truthful, I think that next year, if we had to do it again, they would come up with a different reason to say no to a charter. This has been one of the bullcrap things that people who don't want a charter have been spinning out for more than a year now about why we shouldn't have a charter, and why we shouldn't have a charter now. I promise you, the people who are saying we shouldn't have a charter now, because this is one of the reasons that they bring up. Next year, they'd give me a different reason why we shouldn't have a charter.
It doesn't really matter.
I have an idea.
Perfect.
So, rather than trying to go through a second election cycle for a mayor in a year, which just on a ease of process standard, I hate. It makes my skin crawl.
Okay.
Why don't we instead put a provision in the transition for council to change the mayor's salary appropriate to their new duties as of January 1, 2021?
If it's legal.
Okay, wait.
I believe that was legal according to what Paul
I didn't hear
responded.
that.
Wait. Yes, he said, maybe you could do this. And he gave the cautionary line that all lawyers are gonna give. I don't know that this has ever been done, i.e., this is subject to litigation if you attempt it. That, you have to read between the lines there. What he's telling us is, don't do this particular thing. Limit the amount of time and have another election. Don't screw with people's salaries, because this is something that could be, we could be sued over.
Okay, hang on a second. I definitely read that as don't put a salary into.
Right, so what he's saying in this email, I gotta be honest, what seems far simpler to me is not having another election in a year. You have the mayor serve their 4-year term, and you just let council fix the salary the next year. And if the mayor doesn't
You
like
wait
it.
4 years.
You can't change
You
it.
can't change it.
I thought it was in the same year that.
This is the whole point.
Okay.
And maybe we need to pose a new, very specific question to all,
No, I agree.
right? That can can the charter make that provision to adjust the elected official's salary? Because that's not what he's saying. But he's saying that, yes, we can call for a short, abbreviate the elected person's term, and we can call for a new election for an abbreviated term to get us to where we need to go to get back to a regular 4-year cycle. But he did not say in there that you can change that elected person's salary.
He did not say that, and what he said to me means, really, seriously, don't try this, because this is untried, and that's a territory we don't want to go into.
Yeah,
We don't want to
I
be
agree.
sued over this.
Okay.
So let's keep it simple.
All right, Evan, you had your hand up.
Well, I want to hear what, Council President has to say first, but, and you guys,
Okay. I was also researching this as far as the mayor's salary thing. And what I found was if you, I don't know that you're gonna make a decision tonight, so if you have an opportunity to look at the village of Amelia, they have a transition plan in there that I thought was very clever and it could probably be worked on. But in that one, they don't have, and I don't have all the history, but on that one, apparently they don't have an administrator, and this was 2017-18. They don't have an administrator, but at the time, what they put in there was as a transition plan or whatever, what they put in the charter was, and I get this right, at the point where the council and the mayor determine that an administrator, that they want to hire an administrator, they're allowed to, but at the point where the administrator is hired, the mayor's salary is reduced appropriately to what makes sense for his or her new job responsibilities.
I think you guys just told me we couldn't do that.
Which is,
Sounds like they have a constitutional.
well, so all I say was this, just to take a look at Amelia, and it may be not exactly what you're looking for, but it gives you an idea of what someone else has done in terms of transitioning the mayor's salary.
It's good information, but the only way that it's applicable is if they currently have an administrator and they weren't sued over it by reducing the salary of the mayor, by putting this in there that way. If they have an administrator and they actually had to go through with that process of reducing the mayor's salary, then it's something we should look at, and we have, a leg to stand on if we did that.
All I would like to say is, I think that in some ways we're saying the same thing, but is that when there's an election in November, the person running for mayor needs to know what's going to happen to him or her. In other words, either they're going to be elected and it's going to be only for a year and then there'll be another election, or they'll be elected and the salary will be maybe reduced because someone is told it's legal to put that into the charter that they can change the
When's the
salary.
election in 2021? What election would that be?
In the plan that I was laying out,
Yeah,
so every November there's elections.
so 2021 November?
Yeah. And for the term to begin,
They're gonna be.
November 2020.
Yeah, would you stop saying 2021?
He's what he said, 2021.
Yeah, it's November 2020, that's the election we're talking
So
about.
they're gonna take over on January 1st, 2020.
So it is,
Go through November,
Go
no, go through the end of
through-
the year.
Go through the end of the year.
The election takes place in November of 2020. The new person takes over 2021 January 1st.
for a 3-year term,
For a 3-year term.
Well, if we want to get onto the odd municipal,
and then that 3-year term is to get us back onto the odd number.
Right.
okay,
Regular odd number legislative process or election process.
Right, it's any way around it. So the way you've written this, what else can you do? This is it.
Yeah, I think we should stop with the salary talk.
yeah, we've already agreed to this like 4
This
times.
is good.
I
This is-
agree.
I say we just move on it, and if Paul later comes on and says this is non-tenable, we'll change the language, but I think that we're arguing extremes here. Like, I understand Sarai doesn't like it. I
For the record, I don't
understand that Kelly doesn't like it. But
There's a lot of things I don't like about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah, there's-
can't think of anything that functions better.
Yeah, this is just an odd.
And if someone,
Yeah, that's
I'm happy to, I mean, for
It's
those who's
fiscally,
concerned,
it's fiscally responsible to let the person know what's gonna happen.
for those whose concern is that it's a big thing to get people to go out and vote again, you should look at Minerva Park voting district.
Yeah.
We've had special elections in May and had amazing turnout. We've had special elections in February and had amazing turnout.
And we've had a lot of
We have-
special elections. One of my friends works for the Board of Elections and yells at me every time she sees me because of how much work they had to do for Minerva Park.
Nowhere in the world votes more or better than Minerva Park.
It's true.
Can we just either take a straw poll or move to either?
I mean, your target has already been voted on anyway, so. I don't-
Well,
Yeah,
everyone's been, we haven't voted.
Oh, okay.
Everyone at the table except for Sarai agreed with one time, and then everyone at the table except for Sarai agreed with the second time. So now it's Sarai and Sarai, okay?
Cool.
Just move
So-
on.
Yes, let's vote on it.
If ever, who does not want to have a one-year term for the 2019 elected mayor in the transitional provision of this charter? Cool, that's what goes in.
And I mean, again, if Paul comes up and says, hey, you can do whatever the hell you want with the salary and just push it in there, you know? Yeah, that'd be
There
great.
might be two ways to write it.
Yeah.
Write it both ways, and you can say, yes, they're both good, or yes, that one's good, and no, you
There is
don't
no
change
proof of language, so either if you come up with a plan that you think will work better,
I,
entertain it.
they have language here in this one.
Okay?
Okay, you know what? We just voted. Can we take the formal vote and get this?
Is that
over with?
Amelia?
Yeah, I got Amelia up.
I think it was, and it's not making a lick of sense to me, so I'm.
Salary of the mayor shall be established by ordinance. Should a manager not be hired or a vacancy occurs in the office of manager, the mayor's salary may be adjusted by council to reflect the mayor performing the duties of the manager.
That makes
That's
100% sense.
That's not in the transitional language, maybe that's why.
It's under the mayor's.
Yeah, I don't feel like, I feel like that's just if the mayor is taking over for the administrator in the office of the administrator.
And as far as their transitional is concerned, it's really just, their transitional language is incredibly straightforward. Hand me the. Let me read it. Sorry, I'm gonna get your cup.
Makes total sense. Stuff that we just changed.
Yeah, it's not something we had like
Okay.
or something.
So, this is the transitional language in the Village of Amelia's charter. Is really only 3 bullet points. It is incredibly straightforward. This charter shall be submitted to the electors of Amelia at an election to be held on May 2nd, 2017. If approved by a majority of the persons voting, the charter shall take effect on the date the final result of the election is certified by the Claremont County Board of Elections. Obviously, we can adapt that to fit, where we are. Effect of the charter on existing offices, except as otherwise provided by this charter, all persons holding office at the time this charter takes effect shall continue in office and in the performance of their duties until other provisions have been made in accordance with this charter for the performance or discontinuance of the duties of the office. When that provision shall have been made, the term of any officer shall expire and the office shall be abolished. The powers conferred and the duties imposed upon any officer, body, commission, board, department, or division of Amelia under the laws of Ohio or under any municipal ordinance, resolution, or contract in force at the time this charter takes effect. If the office, body, commission, board, department, or division is abolished by this charter, shall be thereafter exercised and discharged by those upon whom are imposed corresponding functions, powers, and duties by this charter or by any ordinance or resolution of council thereafter enacted. 10.03, continuance of present employees. Every employee of Amelia on the effective date of this charter shall continue in his or her employment subject in all respects to the provisions of this charter and ordinances, resolutions, rules, or regulations enacted or promulgated under this charter.
I want to point out that that's exactly what's in OVEX's. Those
So,
two
but
things.
that doesn't seem like a transition plan to me.
No,
But
it's not.
it is transitional language. So, but again, and I don't have, I've read, now that I've read it a few times and I've digested, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it solves our specific problem
It does.
with mayor's salary.
No.
And their provision for mayor's salary, I don't think does either. Because what they're saying here is salary of mayor shall be established by ordinance, that's fine. Should a manager not be hired or a vacancy occur in the office of the manager, the salary may be adjusted by council to reflect the mayor performing the duties of the manager. But we explicitly stated in our charter that the mayor
Shall hire a manager.
that we shall hire a manager and that the mayor cannot take the duties of the mayor, or the mayor cannot take the duties of the manager, right? So that is explicitly.
To adopt this language, we are reneging on everything we've done so far, basically.
So this is not-
It's
right.
not.
And then the other concern,
Everything will be as it is until it's.
so the other
That's
concern
basically what this language says.
with the salary language is that it's anticipating a mayor with increasing responsibilities and therefore increasing salary. You're hard pressed to find somebody to say, damn you for giving me more money for doing more work. That's unlikely, but I expect it is considerably more likely to find somebody say, hey, why are you taking my cheese?
Yeah.
Even though you're taking away my responsibilities, that is more likely.
It talks about the abolishment of the office of the manager and the mayor. Let's move on.
I don't think we're gonna convince either of you. So,
I don't think it matters, you
yeah,
know.
I know, I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying we move on. Like, I
What else is
feel
there?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, these other three, paragraphs probably
Yeah, I don't.
take care of some problems.
What paragraphs were we talking about?
The transitional language.
There's also in the OVEX.
Yeah.
The OVEX.
So, we talked around transitional provisions a lot.
I think that that transitional language plus language about the mayor election things as described.
Yeah, and I think that the main, according to my notes, the main point of contention was the actual plan for transition when, because Pam is talking about, little signatories, like when to shift over from mayor to administrator, that sort of thing. So we might need to include language about that.
So you're gonna second this.
Because as written in the charter, when we have an administrator, he or she starts signing off on stuff.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, and there's gonna be these little things that are gonna be part
Right,
of
so there's going to be a bunch of little bureaucratic details that need to be nailed out, but I think that's just when an administrator is hired, they will assume signatory authority for the village, as stipulated in the chart, sort of thing, right?
Lisa.
Right, I would think that this goes into effect. And from day one, the administrator has every power that's in their duty that's in there.
But I guess what I was thinking too is it's probably gonna take a few days to get all that settled. Now, maybe they're working on it also while, because people get hired to take, to start their job on a certain date. And so in that time, they've gone to the bank and said, okay, on this date, this person's gonna be the person. So just all that bureaucratic kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that as is practical kind of language that works, right? Then they will have signatory authority
And then,
as of their start date or as soon as it's.
whatever they spell
Yes,
out, I don't think Amelia addresses, and I don't think, and we sort of talked back and forth, is deadlines, right? Because we decided like sort of a year, right? That's our general consensus, but I thought it was like a year for, to go from a whole village to a village. And we didn't know if we wanted to add specific deadlines, like administrator maybe must be hired by the second quarter, or just say, everything has to be done by the end of the year, council can do it however they want.
And you can explain all of that.
Yes.
I think that saying that it has to be done by the end of that year is probably our smartest move, as distasteful as that is, because I'd love to have a manager,
Q1.
Day one, day three, whatever, as is, and however late we set the deadline is most likely as late as it's gonna happen. But I feel like that is the most reasonable way to do it, to set it at a year.
I know,
Arguing for your principle.
I am arguing it absolutely, it's ridiculous. It's, right,
I understand.
it's ridiculous, it's completely ridiculous, and maybe Paul and I are the only two people in the room who think that this can get done immediately, and there really is no, it's no hassle.
I'm not disagreeing, and I think that the trigger, or what we then have to do is come to meetings and remind them, hey, we should be looking for a manager.
Absolutely.
Hiring a manager. But I don't think.
It's psychotic, if we give them a year, they're gonna take a whole year.
I know.
Well, none of these other villages, cities, et cetera, seems to work. I haven't found any that go into that detail. I mean, I can look at more.
And if we don't, then they're not gonna do it, in my opinion.
About it taking a year to find a manager.
It shouldn't. I mean, the charter.
By other provision of the charter, it cannot.
And
In the administrator section dealing with the vacancy,
Oh, you're right,
it cannot
cannot
take a year
take-
or bad things happen.
that's exactly right.
Good on you.
Okay.
Kelly?
Yes.
Howdy y'all, Golden well. Sorry I wasn't here at the beginning, it sounded like it was quite lively tonight. I just have a quick comment on the administrator, from a practical standpoint, hiring an administrator. It does take, depending on when your council gets started, when they're going to get started on it, it will, for practical, it'll take multiple months just to get a person interviewed, transitioned, and they will give anywhere between 30 and 90 days to wherever they're working at, okay, because of their requirements. So it could easily take 6 to 8 months for a person from a hiring point for them to start if they want. So just keep that back ahead. It's not wrong to give them time to do so. We'll take them time regardless. But if they do wait the last minute, they're putting themselves in peril because it will take time.
Okay, so maybe we don't, as you suggested, because we did add that language already in the administrator section. We already added that language. So maybe we don't give them a time frame. The problem is that I think, my opinion, hopefully I'm dead wrong, is that if we don't, then it's not gonna happen.
What happens if they don't hire an administrator? What's the
I
exact?
think Kelly's looking for it right now.
Yeah, it's out there.
I can't remember.
So, just in the interest of moving on once we resolve this, I feel like as a whole, our transitional language should be essentially what the first two provisions from the city of Amelia, or village of Amelia, saying, things are how they are until they're not. And then we get into the weeds about the mayoral elections. And then if there's already a provision about when an administrator be hired, that's pretty much all we need to do. I don't think they're on the signatory stuff, right? Is there anything that
Even that could probably.
Well, happens organically.
okay.
I
So
would think.
are there any other issues that everyone thinks need to be addressed?
Well, okay, so I fear that there will not be a complete, successful, or smooth handover of information from the mayor to whomever the administrator is.
That's an opinion you have, correct?
It's an opinion, and I'm worried about it.
There's no way for us to legislate that.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up because it is something that is bothering
All
me.
village documents and escrow service, and then after the administrator. I mean, what do we do?
No, I just wanted to say it.
Yeah, I don't know. Just trying to.
Exactly, I've said it, good enough.
So we were wanting to get them started, at least interviewing the manager. Is there any language we can use in it as a date to start? Or do we just have to sit there and say,
Well, you
don't
say when it takes effect.
start it right away?
So, look, the way we've got the administrator article drafted basically If there's not gonna be an administrator for more than 30 days, then council can appoint a qualified department director to perform the duties of a village administrator on an interim basis. And then the mayor is supposed to, sorry. And then in the event of resignation or removal of the village administrator, mayor has 60 days to appoint an interim. And then it's just basically there's just shall language. It's the mayor shall hire an administrator with approval of council. The answer to the question someone asked of what if the mayor just doesn't do it is that at that point they're in dereliction of duty and they can be removed from office.
That's misfeasance.
Yes.
So why don't we just do that anyways? I like them.
Yeah,
I would just use that, the original lyric.
Well, it kind of had this thing, it says, this is the way it is, unless there's provisions in the charter that,
I mean, it doesn't say anything.
it's right,
I
right.
believe its language is the way it is because they did not have shall language for their administrator. They had may language, right? Council and mayor may
Right.
hire.
It sounds like you just need that last paragraph.
And so that's why it'll be this way until the time in which they.
Until sometime in the future, when everyone decides that they need an administrator, we've already made that decision.
I personally have faith that whoever holds council of their jobs is going, if charter passes, I have faith that they can comply with it. I do.
I'm not saying that I think that most of them won't. I'm saying that all it would require is one person to start a whole giant thing. Not that that person can't be outvoted, of course they can.
And then I'll buy a go.
Or is it misfeasance?
Can we have you on record as saying that you do in fact buy the billboard?
I'll buy a giant billboard.
Awesome.
But you know, there are no billboards allowed in the village.
So I guess here's my question. Am I copying over OBET's language for their transition provisions? Yes or no?
You're saying that OBET's was the same as another.
OBET's is Amelia's language, it's the same
I
language.
don't think
Oh,
we'll
you check, okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, all we're adding is 2 paragraphs to the charter. Yeah, but I don't think it does anything that we decided on.
Now, I noticed in Amelia, they had the effective date, and I don't know whether that's going to decide what the effective date is. It looked like Amelia was as soon as
They had it,
Yeah.
OBET has it tailored to when their election was.
Yes, they all seem to,
So January 1 of 2010 in the case of OBET's.
they seem to take
That's what I should
one year after we were elected, so. I think you were right, probably the last several sections.
They seem to be. We're going to be adding in special mayor language, so we'll be making that a full cloth and pass Paul, I guess. What else do we have that we can go over?
But I actually have one more question in all of this. So the only power of the mayor that is substantively different that we have afforded is veto. So does that veto power go into effect January 1, or is there, right? So that is a change in balance of power. And we had discussed on another day some trigger to, I thought that, we had discussed that they get that power when the seventh council member is onboarded.
If the charter goes into effect on January 1, then the basic makeup and function of every aspect of our government changes as well, to try to cherry pick out any one thing and saying, but this doesn't go into effect, seems counterproductive to me.
It's a balance of power thing, right? So on the first regular council meeting in January,
We'll have,
we'll have one fewer council people at least than we had designed this form of government with. And so if there's a tie, a 3-3 vote, does the mayor get to break the tie?
Is that much happening?
I'm just
throwing out.
No, seriously, because it'll happen, and they won't, they'll just,
Okay,
won't know what
so,
to
First order of business is going to be appointing the MPCs.
So that is the.
Like I said, you can't cherry pick one thing here, everything is changing.
I'm just making sure, this is one thing that is a concern for me, I'm just reasoning, so.
it has been a concern for you, and I was willing to die on that hill with you, but I'm not anymore. Because there's virtually never, this virtually never comes up. Let's just let it go.
That's fine, okay. All right,
I
then,
mean, plus because the council can provide any, yes, dear.
I was just confused about something. So on January 1, there wouldn't be, highly unlikely there's not going to be an administrator on January 1. So, but there will be a new mayor. So on January 1, you'd be in a situation where no one can sign a contract until it,
No,
okay,
No.
okay, that's what I.
the mayor can.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
that's what the Amelia stuff deals with, so the mayor continues as a signatory until they are not the signatory anymore, when there is an administrator, however that.
You're covered, I
I
promise.
just want,
We thought about it and we
to
covered it.
clarify it.
Yeah.
I think this has been an emotional meeting.
So, at this point, I don't have the ability to give us language to look at for Article 11. I'm gonna copy that OBES language over for Article 12. I'm gonna take a crack at a mayor provision. Is there anything else that needs covered in either of those two articles? From the memos, from anything that you guys discussed over the last
And we
couple
have
meetings?
2 meetings left.
We have 2 meetings left.
We
So
have
I'm gonna do my best to have as complete a language as possible so that we can be
So
finalizing the language.
The
over
point
the
is,
next 2 meetings.
should we meet on a Sunday? Or are we going to commit to sitting here for the next 2 meetings until we are done? Because this is it.
I got
That
that.
was the
Based
choice.
on the conversation, yeah, when we had that conversation last time with Rainey here, it was, I would rather stay late on Thursday night than try to make Sunday work. I just can't make Sunday
I think
work.
everyone agreed,
Yeah.
at least, but a vast majority.
Yeah.
I don't think there was.
And I'm just not available.
We couldn't stay forever. Although we might, if we decide to stay until, we might end up leaving on Sunday. That's okay.
All right, so it's 10 after 8. We have 20 minutes left in the regularly scheduled meeting time.
I can report on something.
Yeah, do we have anybody that would like to report on anything, answer questions, ask questions?
So I had contacted InSpeed Printing. I gave them the copy of the Johnstown Oracle book that was sent out and asked her for a quote. And I'll read it. 800 booklets, 12 pages plus cover is $826. She then says, printed on a heavy cover. So Johnstown had a heavy cover, so I think she's thinking that also, with the file furnished. So we will furnish that file, they don't have to. The inside printed on, and it says 60-pound offset paper stock. Now, the reason it says 50-pound is because they use these big sheets, and 60-pound is equivalent to 24-pound paper, which is also pretty significant.
How many pages was that again?
It will be 12 pages, but it's those big pages, and then they
So that many pages will cover our
it will cover
25-page charter.
yes, because I think Johnstown's is at least that.
Okay.
And then it would be folded and stapled with the finished size being 5.5 by 8.5. She just says, please let me know if you have any questions. The only thing I sent back is, are there any other options to reduce the cost? I said, can the cover be, does it need to be that heavy, right? Could it be, there's a 50-pound paper that's actually equivalent to 20-pound regular paper. Yeah, just making it a little less, but you're thinking 800 sounds pretty reasonable.
That was also for how many copies?
800 booklets. But also the more it weighs, the more it may cost to mail. So just-
So 800 booklets, didn't we,
We need more than
we discussed last week 1,200, we need 1,200.
You should just add that percentage to that.
Yeah, make it, so it will be $415.
Yeah, we said last time, $1 a book.
Yeah,
That's still reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Can I do, Ray, copy you on your list, Paul, about budget?
Yes, but I don't know that I saw an answer back.
Yeah, I finally got some time to write up a one-page blurb for the Villager, and there's a couple more edits. We'll put it on the OneDrive, and I would entertain comments, either things are missing, you don't like the way things are stated, whatever. It's a straw man. I'm not gonna be offended by comment.
yeah. Did you send that out to everyone?
In fact, it's on the OneDrive now, he just has a couple
I have just a couple edits. I use commission instead of department, so I think I'll fix that. But it's an attempt to, on one page, summarize where we are, and let me just read 3 items. The proposed charter attempts to make the Minerva Park government more transparent to residents, more efficient in its operation, more responsive to its citizens' needs, and have well-defined checks and balances between the executive and legislative bodies. That's kind of the tone I'm setting, and then I deal with the form of government, the requirements for departments. I mentioned that the transition plan is being worked on. And I ended up with saying, we already had 2 open meetings on the charter, and prior to the November 2019 election, the Charter Commission intends to provide village residents complete information in additional open meetings. We hope you will be there.
Change complete to substantial.
Okay,
So, I'm not going to go over any more of it, but I appreciate any editorial comments, improvements. And it is 1 page.
nice. Thank you.
And it is in OneDrive, it's like this hard.
Now, I think we have to decide, or somebody has to decide whether we have our chairman sign on behalf of the commission. If you wanted, I could sign it as a commissioner. I don't care. I don't, whatever you think is the best way to go out.
I think Randy should probably sign it.
It's more
One thing that
Well, yeah.
I'm probably better known than she is. So, if it went out with her signature as supported by, or whatever. But I'm not trying to get credit, I'm trying to
No, you know what, I think you're right there.
establish credibility.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, you have a reputation.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in there about, the people will get in writing?
No, but I can certainly add that.
I'm just putting that out there. It's concrete.
In addition to a hard copy, will be supplied all
Yes.
records. Okay.
So I want to add on to this, I'm not discussing it right now, but I did mention to Randy last meeting that I think that we have to take some responsibility for starting to think about, when our brains are clear, a strategy for promoting this throughout the summer. We can't just like keel over and stop.
No, we can't.
I felt like the advice we got from OVETS was useful related to that. We have to talk to people, and we need to come back, and we can't focus on it yet, we're not done. But I do think that we're gonna have to do a few different things. The meetings, it worked better the first time than it did the second time. We need to come up with other things, all kidding around the side. We just do. And it has to be spread out. It just can't be in one location. It has to be in different locations. I thought it was good that we were on Jordan Road. That was a good thing. But there's other parts of the village too.
I think we have to be careful about using the word promote, because it's really informing.
Yes.
Yes, making sure that everybody knows what this is about, because as a commission, I don't think it's our place to.
Actually, I believe I read somewhere that we actually included from, I'm not positive, but as far as, like.
Looks like
And
you're.
promoting information is perfectly legitimate,
So-
yeah.
So we can provide information.
Absolutely.
We cannot, end that with a, and vote yes.
No,
Right,
of course
and
not.
that-
Okay, so that's why I.
Right, and so promote implies an advocate.
Oh, that's
I think she also just meant for us.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
so the body that can promote is the extant PAC that Jennifer Hawken will be the treasurer of. That is the body that will do any vote yes, advocate, right, but we, as a charter commission, can inform.
I'd like to get some opinion on something I thought about. I was I know the facilities committee, although I've been an absentee member because of job conflict. If I was a new resident in my homes, I would still be worrying about getting my house in order, trying to understand what my neighborhood is, probably have no idea that there's a civic association, not sure what council does, and hasn't got a clue on the facilities committee, and what is this charter anyway? And I was wondering if somehow we could get those 4 groups together and sponsor a picnic or a welcome picnic down for MI. I don't invite the whole village, but make it focused on MI because they haven't got a clue.
I would like for us to be able to do this in, not just there, but in different parts of the village. The problem is money. That's the problem. The problem is, by the end of this, we're not gonna have a penny left.
Eric?
Sir, I have a suggestion, especially in MI, to spend the majority of my time out in that area. So you have at least 100 houses, occupants well established, who have been there for a solid year, some year plus now, all right? How many, is it just Randy? Who else here is from MI subject? Just Randy, okay. So she can speak to this more accurately, but they have a very active Facebook page to themselves. You know, from a factual position of the commission, obviously things can be shared there fairly easily. I don't know if you need to go to a lot of money and effort. Picnic's wonderful, but you have the time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears issue in regards to that. So I would say that there are ways for you to get the word out fairly easily to your residents. Some of them are very attuned to what's going on, you know, and a lot of them, especially from the early days, phase 1 people especially, who I had more time to get to know, you know, they like the village, and they're, for the most part, the people I've spoken with are fairly happy to hear that this commission is taking place in the first place. So those that are there are paying attention. I think you just need to, you know, talk to Rainey. I think you can get the word out that way fairly easily. They're an active group.
Just a thought.
Anybody else have anything they wanna bring up to discuss? I think we had talked about not mandating it and letting it, and that we are gonna have to throw that in, I would say, to general provisions. Is that covered somewhere in general provisions?
That was
Charter review
not what I
process.
thought.
I don't think I've seen.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought we had this in there.
I thought.
You know where?
I don't know where, but
Yeah.
my recollection was 2 years and a 5-year cycle.
Right.
It must be under courts, because I don't remember the conversation, but I know we've been talking the whole time about that, do it after 2 years.
I don't think it was actually stipulated in the charter.
I don't think that.
Yeah, I don't recall drafting.
But I thought it was sort of informally
not to say we're moving folks to it, but
It's in the memorandum, the article 8.
8. So we have a,
Creating a charter.
I know. I feel like we had a conversation about not wanting to put it in here, we wanted to bump that down to general decisions. I feel like I remember that being a conversation.
Article.
That's.
Okay, so I'm just looking at a draft that was up on the OneDrive because I don't have the current this handy. And in this one, it had charter review under Article 11, which just as a box.
Okay, that's
Definitions and charter review.
Okay. All right, anything else from anybody?
Quick favor.
Yes.
I know I missed a couple meetings due to illness and work conflicts. Can someone, did you already go over the BCA, P&C items?
We did that earlier tonight, yes.
While he's here, it's pretty general.
It's really general.
If someone would be so kind, could you just email me, I'd be happy to review and give you comments about it.
Yep.
That'd be helpful,
Yeah.
since you're on time limited.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Going for the third time here.
Wager.
Was that seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're done. That's good now. I always abstain. Because I don't know around.
No, I haven't.
They don't have the right term, we'll get well, it's gonna be about competition.
Find out. I didn't sit outside for that. Yeah, it's not different. What I hear about
Coming to Ryan's, right? The other guy. So just tell me next week.
Okay.
So next week you both promise?
Yes. We're already staying here till midnight anyway.
Why not?
Yeah, I thought that was. I think it was.